Topic preview. Audio and captions begin in 76 seconds. What if the real reason you feel drained after a party has nothing to do with hating people, and everything to do with how your brain is wired? Introversion isn't about how much you like others. It's about how your nervous system handles stimulation. While extroverts light up in busy, high-energy crowds, introverts spend their energy there and need quiet time afterward just to recharge their inner batteries. In other words, an introvert's brain processes the entire physical world with the same deep intensity that extroverts usually reserve only for people. Every detail gets your full attention. Research even shows introverts are more sensitive to dopamine, which means the lively scenes that energize others can quickly overload you, leaving you tired instead of thrilled. So yes, that dreaded introvert hangover is very real. You pick up every microexpression, every shift in tone, every hidden emotion, and it all comes with a surprisingly heavy metabolic cost. That's why home often feels like the safest, sweetest haven. It's the one place where you control the lights, the noise, and the social demands. Staying in isn't avoidance. It's smart, intuitive self-care.
Have you ever felt that sudden, overwhelming wave of pure relief when your Friday night plans get canceled?
Oh, absolutely.
Right, you're like sitting there with your phone in hand, the evening is suddenly yours, and you might briefly wonder if you are just, becoming antisocial.
Yeah, but research actually shows that reaction has nothing to do with being boring. You're responding to a profound biological need.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are opening up a stack of psychological research to figure out what introversion actually is.
Right.
And our mission here is to strip away those heavy labels of shyness and loneliness that society keeps projecting onto it, and look at how the human nervous system is actually wired.
So to understand why those canceled plans feel like winning the lottery, we need to look at how different brains handle stimulation.
So kind of like a smartphone battery, like extroverts charge up by plugging into a crowd.
Exactly. But introverts charge by plugging into a quiet room. I mean, think of an introvert's brain like a highly sensitive microphone. In a quiet room, it perfectly picks up the music.
Oh, I see.
But you put that same microphone in a crowded stadium and just gets overwhelmed by painful feedback.
That really shifts how we look at social energy. It isn't simply about getting tired, it's about sensory overload.
Right, and the science points to the optimal arousal theory. Basically, introverts have a much higher natural baseline of arousal in their nervous system.
So they're already running hot, so to speak.
Yeah, precisely. Because they are already running hot, they avoid heavy stimulation just to stay at a comfortable optimal level.
While extroverts have a lower baseline, so they actively seek out crowds and noise to reach that same optimal state.
And that baseline difference is chemically driven by how our brains process dopamine. Extroverts have a highly active dopamine reward loop.
Meaning when they walk into a loud party, they get a massive chemical hit.
Yeah, it makes the chaos feel fantastic. But introverts use a different primary neurotransmitter pathway, so they don't get that euphoric dopamine reward from socializing. For them, the noise just feels like work.
Wow. And we actually saw that play out literally in an EEG study measuring the P300 response.
Oh, the P300, yeah.
For context, that's a specific electrical spike in the brain that happens exactly 300 milliseconds after we see something stimulating. When extroverts looked at human faces, their brain activity spiked.
Right. But when introverts looked at those same faces, nothing.
Wait, really? Nothing at all?
Nothing. Their electrical spike only happened when they looked at objects.
That is wild.
It is. And it ties directly into personality neuroscience. Introverts show much higher baseline activity in the frontal cortex, which is the area responsible for deep internal thought, problem solving, and planning.
So they are constantly processing every emotional cue and shift in tone on a very deep level.
Exactly. That constant internal computing is what leads to the introvert hangover.
Yeah.
After a social event, they need complete silence just to cool off that frontal cortex and return their nervous system to baseline.
Okay, wait, let me push back on this for a second.
Sure.
If someone is hiding in the corner at a party, avoiding eye contact, isn't that just a fear of social judgment? I mean, how do we know they aren't just shy?
Well, there is a strict psychological boundary between the two. Shyness is the fear of negative judgment. It acts as an anxious barrier between you and the group.
Okay.
But introversion is simply a preference for low stimulation.
So it's about the volume of the world, not a fear of it.
That distinction is so crucial. You can be a wildly confident, highly capable introvert who simply prefers reading a book in silence over, shouting over the music at a crowded bar.
Right.
It's an alignment with an internal biological rhythm, not an apprehension of other people.
So if an introvert isn't sitting alone because they're afraid of people, the outside world immediately jumps to the next conclusion: they must just be terribly lonely.
Which completely confuses loneliness with solitude.
I actually like to think about this difference like eating. Loneliness is like starving when you have absolutely no food.
That's a great analogy.
Right. But solitude is having a fully stocked pantry, but choosing to sit down and peacefully savor a cup of tea by yourself.
Exactly. Loneliness is the painful absence of a desired connection. Solitude is the peaceful presence of yourself, by choice. And in the literature, this voluntary solitude is linked to dispositional autonomy.
Meaning you act based on your own internal values instead of external pressure.
In practice, that means an introvert doesn't need a crowd to validate their evening. This type of voluntary solitude isn't a social deficit at all. It's a measurable skill.
A skill that predicts higher emotional stability.
Yeah, stability, resilience, and intense creativity. Studies consistently show that mastering solitude is incredibly beneficial.
So to summarize, introversion is a biological temperament, not a flaw to be cured.
Exactly.
But we do live in a world fundamentally built for extroverts, one that constantly rewards instant participation and high visibility.
Right. But imagine what would happen if our institutions adapted to both nervous systems. What if our schools and workplaces stopped grading people on who speaks first and instead built wait time and quiet reflection right into our daily structures?
Think of how much untapped genius we'd uncover just by turning down the volume. So here is a thought to leave you with. How might you redesign your own schedule for better energy alignment?
I love that.
The next time those Friday night plans get canceled, remember, you aren't missing out. You're just finally finding your optimal level.
Hi, thanks for watching. If you want more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. Bye.